What is going on, internet? This is something I've wanted to talk about for a little while now, and this is old versus new. So for a little while now, I've been hearing a lot of stuff from the older generation whenever they talk about the younger generation, especially from being out in the workforce. The older generation complains about one major thing, and that's about the younger generation not wanting to work. I mean, how many times have you heard an older person say, "You can't get no one to work these days. These kids are always on those dang phones." And coming from that older generation, many of them worked really, really hard to be where they're at today. So I can understand why they would say that. But then there is the other side of the coin. If you're anywhere on the internet, on TikTok, YouTube, wherever, you will always hear somebody that is younger complain about the older generation. This complaint being that the older generation made it a lot more difficult for the younger generation to be successful. Like my example before, how many times have you heard, "It must have been nice to work minimum wage and be able to afford a house. We out here struggling." I also see the part where the younger generation is correct. And through all of the noise that comes from these different complaints from both sides, the overarching theme of both of these viewpoints is hopelessness. A hopelessness for the future of both parties involved. But both points do not take into account the reality of what is actually happening. Whenever the older generation gives the old adage like, "Pull yourself up by your bootstraps," boy howdy. Or they say these kids don't want to work, they're only taking into account the people that genuinely don't want to work. Because personally, I know a bunch of people that want to work. They're out here trying to get that bag. They're out here just trying to survive. Granted, there are a bunch of lazy people in my generation, me being one of them. I think it's just disingenuous to those people that actually want to work. It is discouraging. And the younger generation, I believe they are fully correct about the boomers ruining the economy. But the biggest fault with the younger generation's mindset is that they don't even try. And I understand the hopelessness. I mean, it's not like we're not all struggling. Look, all I'm saying is that life's already hard. Why are you expecting to be handed stuff? In lieu of talking about the different generational differences and their shortcomings and how they're both like missing the mark with their way of thinking, I figured I'd try to give at least a little bit of hope, you know? Like, toss that out there into the internet, see how it goes. I do think that the younger generation wants to work and wants to try better in their lives. That is why self-improvement videos have popped up all of a sudden. Is why David Goggins is super popular. The kids want to work. And I think it's doing them a disservice to really discourage them and be like, you guys are just all lazy. And for the younger generation, yeah, the boomers, they messed up the economy. It's cool. It's over and done with. We can move past it. Let's just find a way around it. I can only say that we need to adapt and move forward because I got to experience it myself through what God has done in my life. So a couple years ago, I had a really great job. It was paying me really nice, and I actually enjoyed the job. Then one day, God told me, "Hey, I'm gonna take all of this stuff away from you." So over the course of a couple years, I lost my job, my pay, and my forward progress that I was making. And then God began to teach me different skills to move forward in my life. Through the lack of a stable job, He built my endurance to stand against difficult things, against stressful situations and hard times. Through the difficulties that popped up during that time, He built my willpower, or the desire to see things changed in my life. Probably most importantly, He checked my motives for what I was doing. Was I doing things specifically for money? Or was I doing it to show love to people? Was I being selfless instead of selfish? And this mentality that took me a long time to learn, because I'm impatient, I realized that I needed these things to keep me on track for the future. And while I was learning these things, I was given specific tasks that matched what I was learning at the time, so that I would learn to build those mental skills for later. And He's still testing me with those things today. But like I said before, through all of the difficulties that life throws at us, and the discouragement and fear, I want you to take comfort in the fact that hard times are going to come in life. But whether you're young or whether you're old, there's somebody that is always going through the same problem as you. And with God and your fellow man, you will never be alone. Stay blessed.